I'm not an AI. For better or for worse, I'm not an AI. Race cars, Blackbraid. Welcome back to Death Metal Pug. I'm Manford Mann's Earth Pug. I want to be a rock star when I grow up. The purpose of this is to have fun and talk about music. If for some reason we can help out your band, project, or business, please reach out to us at deathmetalpug@gmail.com. I'd like to thank Davey Havoc for being on last week's episode. I don't know if you noticed, but we're going to talk about race cars a little bit this week. People keep asking if we're monetizing, and I'm like, nah, I don't need like that headache for like $20 a week or anything. I'm not opposed if we make $200 a week, though. I'm actually surprised people give a shit about this stuff. I know we're starting to get noticed. Record labels, I mean, feel free to please send us the album's information, backstory, I guess. I'll get to things when I can, and I'm probably just gonna already look at the stuff that I'm already interested in as well. It's just my runabout way of saying we're trying to be super non-biased here, but yeah, please send us info. It's very flattering to even understand that people are starting to notice us, so thank you. But let's hey crew, let's keep this thing a secret, okay? As much as we can. Only send this to people you really like, please. Let's keep this whole thing, kind of minimal. Congrats to Bloodletter and their album release event at Sleeping Village on August 8th. I appreciate the invitation, but darn it, life just got in the way and I could not make it. Check out their new album though, Leave the Light Behind. We discussed it last week and it's definitely worth a listen. Reminder, Death Metal Pug does not have social media, and you should just go outside. Speaking of going outside, Death Metal Pug went to see NASCAR at the Iowa Speedway. Okay, so for some of you who know about NASCAR and our connection with that, the last couple of years we've gone to the Chicago Street Race. Last year at the Chicago Street Race, we got to see the Black Keys, the Chainsmokers, and Keith Urban, including a really up close moment with Keith Urban when he came to our section in the crowd and performed his Mom Country in front of us there. But this year we missed the NASCAR Chicago Street Race in Chicago because we went to Costa Rica, and all that crap is in that one episode that we did a while back, that I'm sure will show you. Iowa Speedway has dubbed itself the fastest short track in NASCAR. It is located in Newton, Iowa, just west of Des Moines. This 7/8 mile D-shaped oval opened in 2006, designed by NASCAR legend Rusty Wallace to blend old school thrills with modern precision. With progressive banking from 12 to 14 degrees in the corners, it quickly earned a reputation for an intense side-by-side racing. Originally hosting Xfinity Truck and IndyCar events, the track became a fan favorite for its gritty surface and unpredictable grip. In 2013, NASCAR took ownership, saving the venue from financial trouble and securing its future. After years of anticipation, the first NASCAR Cup Series race finally roared to life in 2004. Today, Iowa Speedway seats only 30,000 fans, which is really small for this level of NASCAR, actually. There are actually two current NASCAR race car drivers, to my knowledge, that have dipped a little bit into metal who are currently driving. If there are others, please do feel free to tell me. I want to know. Former champion and last year's Iowa Speedway race winner, Ryan Blaney, and his longtime fellow race car driver, Bubba Wallace. So I remember Ryan Blaney and Bubba Wallace coming up through NASCAR, and they were very, very young. song, right? All this stuff. So there's some old footage out there of the two guys doing like just vocals and drums, right? And almost like Lamb of God, like articulated like vocals over just like one of them just doing the snare pops, you know? So it's just like the growls over the snare kind of thing, and they were just kids having fun. So Blaney has a natural, like, real deep voice, and these are relevant stars too, right? They're driving at the highest NASCAR Cup level. The driver Bubba Wallace, he just won out the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis, and like we said, Ryan Blaney won the race at Iowa in 2004, and he's been a NASCAR champion as well. So there's some metal that runs through NASCAR just a bit from my observation. But of course, when I see stuff like that, I relate it and kind of like remember it. Because I like both. So obviously it's not the forefront of what they do, or they haven't gone on to make bands or anything like that. And because I like both race cars and metal, I've felt connections to the two. Ways that racing and metal go together. I mean, my gosh, they're both very, very loud. Race cars are loud. Metal is loud. Speed. Race cars and metal can be very, very fast, and race cars are made of metal. Where have I been to race-wise, NASCAR-wise? Let's see. I've been to Michigan, Chicago Land Speedway, and then also the short track, of course. I've been to Indy. I've been to Bristol. Talladega is quite the event, quite the party. Phoenix, Atlanta, Daytona. I've been to Miami, and I think I'm forgetting one. Nowadays, my producer is the super fan. Do you like seeing random metal shirts in the wild? I do. It's less often for me now due to my age, but I like seeing like possible friends in metal t-shirts out and about. Do you ever have fun, or just like kind of like to go out and notice like the random like metal shirts at like a public event? Maybe it's just my insecurity, but I always feel a little bit better when I see somebody else like wearing stuff into it. I think it's definitely more prevalent in stuff like county fairs or rural places maybe, where that was like my direct experience. You don't really see them at Cubs games up near Chicagoland, very rarely. And then at like Bears games and stuff, usually it's like cold and we're all like covered up in winter coats and things. But at this sold out 30,000 fan event at the Iowa Speedway, I spotted two metal t-shirts at the event that day. Both were under the Turn 4 grandstands. So the random metal shirts that I saw at the event were a Hate Eternal shirt and a black Death Heaven Sunbather t-shirt. So like I said, I feel like there's a obvious connection between metal music and racing or NASCAR, but musically I haven't always found that to be sure, right? So because NASCAR is such a southern-based continental United States sport, I haven't found the metal connection to be very true very often, right? They're more closely connected to like country music. But if you think racing is just connected to country music or the Cars movie, you are wrong. There's some other options available. I remember the band Chevelle, which may have roots or connections to Chicago too, coincidentally. And I'm pretty sure Chevelle is named after a car. Coincidentally, I saw the band. The only time I've seen the band Chevelle is when they were playing outside of the Chicagoland Speedway, which is located in like a northwestern suburb of Chicago. I think they'd been pretty much washed up at that point by then. Well, it was a few years back, right? I can't exactly remember when, and then Google couldn't come up with it either. So they were playing at the end of the race, and it was definitely pre-COVID out there, so I don't know. It could have been anywhere from like, I was out there a lot from like 2002 till 2019. I've been out to that racetrack most of those events, right? So Chevelle, the band, played out there. Might have been 2010 is my best guess. I think maybe it was before we started carrying like cell phones around everywhere and stuff like that. There's been some NASCAR and racing connection for a while. I was able to pull up on the we'll put up on the screen, but we were able to find like a bunch of instances where like bands were sponsored on race cars, including Guns N' Roses one time, which was pretty neat. Does anybody remember the NASCAR Crank It Up CD? NASCAR got real popular in the mid 2000s. So metal bands got put on a NASCAR Crank It Up CD. Okay, so Crank It Up was a moment on the television broadcast where the announcers would like shut up for a minute. They'd shut up for like 2 whole minutes, and the viewer at home could like turn up. The whole idea was turn up the race car sounds, like crank it up and hear the engines. They just pump the race car sounds in, and it's just a great idea in lieu of being there, because such a big part of racing, kind of like metal, just the noise and the excitement of the noise at a race car event as well. If you don't know, NASCAR races are super fucking loud. You literally can't speak to the person next to you when they roar on by, and it's awesome. Sound familiar? That sounds like every metal concert you've ever been to. It is awesome. So like metal, the volume can be an important point of it, right? Remember when we saw that blind guy at Chicagoland? What was that, 2019? I forget. I want to talk about Blackbraid, but there's no natural connection between Blackbraid and race cars. So let's talk about some racing and metal connected stuff first. Check out these racing themed metal bands. The first band is a stretch, but the cover features a fat guy with a monster truck on his shirt, so I'm going to count it. Anger Machine released Human Error July 5th, 2025. By the way, monster trucks are awesome too. It's amazing to me to see something the size of a house like flip backwards in the air. Anger Machine are a fun little band, and they've created a fun little thrash album. No pizza thrash here, despite the album cover being an air show. Gone wrong with like the planes crashing and sandwiches, and there's a Hawaiian shirt guy and he's holding a Frappuccino or something like that. Great guitar players on this album. Or guitar player, is it? It has an old school feel in the production. Sometimes I feel like the songs are a little too written though, if that makes sense. Like they're trying to build the ideas into it, but I think like they might be better if they were just like shorter, faster, like heavier songs, if you will. Instead of like they try to build on like twists and turns, and then they add like the chorus pedals and stuff to it and things. They're probably trying to add like, you know, another layer of dynamics or kind of like interest to the songwriting, instead of just making it seem like, you know, like a 20-minute thrash album or something. But it's a real thrash album with some good ideas on this. If you can't get enough thrash, give Anger Machine a spin. Who would do a gimmicky thing with death metal? I don't know. The band Restrictor Plate might. On June 4, 2025, the death metal band Restrictor Plate released a new single titled Guardrail Guillotine. Last year, a whole EP titled Slamtona was released. No, I didn't make that name up. Restrictor Plate is a NASCAR-themed, brutal death metal, hardcore band hailing from Richmond, Virginia. Formed in 2023, they fused the raw aggression of slam and beatdown metal with the high-octane energy of motorsports culture. Richmond, Virginia does have a 3/4 mile NASCAR track, and the Cup cars do race there at least twice a year, I believe. Before I go any further, do you know what a restrictor plate is? I think this comes up a bit in NASCAR and auto racing. So a restrictor plate is historically a chunk of metal, and it goes between the carburetor and the intake manifold, and is to slow like the air gas mix, thus slowing the car. So basically, at some point, race cars became so fast they became unsafe for very large ovals. So 3,000-pound stock cars are racing around over 2-mile, 2.5-mile size tracks, and they were going so fast that they became so dangerous, including like flying into the crowd maybe, that they had to find a way to limit the power of the car. What this did is it slows the cars down, making them all like kind of equal, and then it's all kind of contingent on the air. So all those like jokes about like seeing the air, working in the air, or being part of the air, or like drafting, this is all a huge component of what was referred to in NASCAR as restrictor plate racing. Now, one of the most famous restrictor plate races in history is Dale Earnhardt, and we'll get to more on him later. So this is kind of the gist on like how restrictor plates, right? This band titled Restrictor Plate from Virginia, it's slamming death metal. It is. It's not quite got the pingy snare, but there's a bit of that there, and it delivers riffs with like kind of like a chug chug pop, chug pop pop, chug pop, like that kind of thing for it. It's okay, and there's some fun race references built into this restrictor plate band. It's the second thing to come out in 2024, featuring like one of the greatest like start your engines in racing history, and that's when Kevin James did it. Bill Murray was the other. His fantastic album from 2024 is titled American Motorsports. I remember seeing that Kevin James Start Your Engine on TV live. It was sort of at the height of NASCAR, right? And I think they were rolling out that movie Grown Ups 2, so there was a bunch of them. And I know Grown Ups 2 is a horrible movie, right? I did like Grown Ups 1, but 2 is... 2 is pretty shitty, right? Anyways, that Kevin James Open just gets belted out, and then it rolls into the track, beaten with a monkey wrench, which starts off with, of course, furious pounding on the snare, which just works perfect after that start your engines moment. I didn't really give too much thought into the lyrics, but I was enticed to check out the lyrics to Truck Nuts. Now that's nuts with a Z, of course. That was the song where the lyrics were like built into the streaming app, so I could actually kind of read them. Nothing interesting there. So as I think I've laid out, I've been into racing a little bit, and I think there's stuff in this restrictor plate like Slam Tona album that's kind of interesting. So I really do think the band Restrictor Plate are NASCAR fans or racing fans. Just some of the stuff in reference or with respect to like Earnhardt's death or other things on the album kind of raise an eyebrow, and you're like, whoa, that's interesting. But they're getting a little nasty in the lyrics here, but not in like a gross way, but just in a like I know what's going on in NASCAR kind of way. But hey, it's extreme music. The band does know when to like turn up the BPM, right? Or move into like kind of like a double time moment, which is good. It really adds that kind of like death metal flair to it for sure. The production's drenched in like a quietness, which doesn't have quite like work. I think it's trying to have like a 90s vibe to it, but just comes across like a little bit like fuzzying up the recording, if you will. If you happen to have a cross section of death metal and racing, check out the band Restrictor Plate, especially the songs Beaten with a Monkey Wrench and Earnhardt Stomp. Speaking of Earnhardt, I Am the Intimidators album came out in 2024. I did listen to this in 2024 and wasn't like super blown away by it or anything. Interestingly, it features a throwback, I would say, to like early 90s Dale Earnhardt, like the album cover. It's got like an Earnhardt jacket, and it's shot with like a black and white photo, and the person is wearing a helmet inexplicably, and also they're holding a sword, which looks cool, but I don't know if it really makes sense with the history of Dale Earnhardt, or maybe the legacy of Earnhardt. It's kind of shot like it is 1992, which is kind of cool. That would have been like pretty peak Earnhardt era time. Obviously the Black Knight. I picked up this shirt at the Iowa Speedway when we were out there. I could talk for 20 minutes about Earnhardt and the Earnhardt family, and I think that's something you could probably look up, or if you already know, then you'd be a bit bored by it, quite frankly. If you're a little bit into NASCAR, then you definitely know about Dale Earnhardt and such. But some high level information, if you don't know, Dale Earnhardt Sr. We always say senior, or we just say senior because he had a son who raced in NASCAR as well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Sr. is considered one of the best drivers in NASCAR history. There are qualifying metrics for this, right? Such as wins, the number of championships, and things like that put him in the top 5 of all-time drivers, right? Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon. Earnhardt is in an elite group in NASCAR history for sure. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was known for being very much like hard-nosed, disciplined, rough around the edges, blue collar, just a serious like race car driver. This is my job. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm coming here to win races, was kind of like his mentality that he projected to everybody. He always brought like a serious race car, tough guy, I'm going to win type of mentality. He won a lot early in his career. He won championships. He had a good amount of success in NASCAR relatively quickly. He was known as a villain for a while, using that chrome bumper, if you will, touching people with his aggressive racing style, and that kind of stuff will make you a villain of sorts in the sport for a bit. But like anybody with a huge amount of success, including his record-tying 7 championships, he turned into a very likable driver from the fan perspective, even to this day. He would have had that aesthetic in the late earlys and 90s, and it's probably when his appeal really skyrocketed. So that like look on this album cover really would have been like kind of a very high watermark moment for Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt is the type of person that legends can be built around and about. Do you think it's super awesome the way in which Ozzy went down or just died after having that like massive concert and just kind of going out like that after the final concert? Within days he passes away, right? In a similar way, Dale Earnhardt lost his life racing at the biggest race in NASCAR, the Daytona 500. The 2001 Daytona 500, the start of the season, the largest crowd, the biggest race of NASCAR's season. He was involved in an accident and he perished in a car crash at the Daytona 500 in 2001. And like Ozzy, he was always dressed in black. You know how NASCAR drivers are like walking billboards for companies, right? So different companies provide financial support for the race teams to operate. Basically, they fund it. So for a good portion of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s racing career, he was sponsored by GM Goodwrench, which went under a black moniker, right? Their colors were black. So his racing uniform was black, his car was black, and just all this came together. His aggressive racing style, the black car, the black look, the seriousness, and it earned him his nickname, the Intimidator. Interestingly, as I understand it, I Am the Intimidator is a one-person project and is done by a single person who lives in Portland, Oregon. The reason I point out Portland, Oregon is because if you think of like NASCAR traditionally, it's a very like kind of like southern sport where most of the tracks are like in the south, right? A lot of racing's done down there. It just, tends to like have more of a racing mentality, right? Think of like the Carolinas, right? Definitely Florida. A lot of the race teams are in or around Charlotte, North Carolina, where they set up, right, and build the race cars. So it's just interesting because, like, to my knowledge, Portland, Oregon doesn't host like a NASCAR race or have like a big like NASCAR kind of culture in Oregon, at least today. I mean, there are NASCAR races around the country, from California to Texas to Phoenix. You already know they've been to Chicago, Michigan. They get to New York. They go to Watkins Glen. That race just happened. New York. They go to the Poconos in Pennsylvania. But the majority of the tracks are in that kind of southern part of the United States, which makes this project coming from Portland just kind of interesting. I Am the Intimidator is just like a weird band or project. It has like almost like falsetto vocals at times. It's got a bit of like speed metal to it, but then it's also got a touch of like epic heavy metal mixed in there, and then it's got like new wave of British heavy metal flourishes as well. The tracks are pretty varied in what they are, but they all kind of like, cover that kind of like sound, if you will, I described. Each song brings a little different like rhythm or style to the guitar riffs. I could kind of hang with this album until the track I Am the Intimidator. Then it kind of lost me a bit. I have a hard time like finishing the album after that. This year, 2025, they released a karaoke version of most of their songs, just absent of the vocals. It's actually titled "I Am the Karaoke King." I'm not joking about that title, right? The song "I Am the Intimidator" again from the band I Am the Intimidator. When I get to that song, it just kind of grows to be a little too much for me. It's probably my least favorite song on that album. The whole thing just feels like it's like lightly dusted with a bit of cheese. And I don't know if that like cheese ball stuff is supposed to be on purpose or not, which is, maybe to their credit. If you would like, check out the band I Am the Intimidator. You might like it or you might not, but NASCAR's still cool. One time I recall like metal and NASCAR intersecting, and believe it or not, Ricky Rockman had a NASCAR like racing show, and I only saw it a little bit, and I didn't really like keep track of it or anything. I'm not sure it was like heavy on like the rock and metal side of things. It really was like a NASCAR show. So yeah, this is the same Ricky Rockman that was MTV Headbangers Ball kind of guy from back in the day. So people have a lot of nostalgia for Headbangers Ball now, and maybe like the guests, the hosts, the video DJs, the VJ hosts and that. But like in my recollection, they just kind of shit on this guy a lot, or like put pranks and stuff on him. So a quick like search showed me that since 2003, Ricky Rockman's hosted something called Racing Rocks, which is like a commentary show about racing in NASCAR and stuff. I understand in 2015 he started broadcasting from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. That's in Charlotte, North Carolina. The program, provided just racing news, insights, interviews, stuff like that with the drivers, right? I understand he's been drug and alcohol free since 1988. It's kind of a big part of his life, so I'm thinking maybe he had a problem with it or something. He's done like annual charity rides, raising money, right, for various causes, including one year he raised a bunch of money for the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. If you don't know, Ryan Blaney's father raced in NASCAR as well, back in the day, back in those like heyday 2000s and late 90s as well. So Ricky, I guess, lives or at some point moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, around all the hub, Mooresville area. Like that's where you'd be if you're into NASCAR, right? From what I could tell now, after kind of searching for like 2 minutes, he's just kind of like a washed up old guy, just doing like, boring Instagram post stuff and trying to stay connected to his audience and maybe make a couple bucks here and there. But that's the closest to like metal and like NASCAR in like a broadcasting or a much more like connected way. But honestly, there just wasn't a lot of metal to that part is what I recall, other than Ricky Rockman's like past experience with Headbangers Ball. The band Death Racer released From Gravel to Grave July 26, 2024. This thing's got a bit of cheese on it as well. But like a lot of the Dying Victims productions, label bands, that can sometimes be the case. The first song is quite the thing that overall I kind of don't care for unless it grows on me. The way they do that riff, like it's just scratching the guitar pick across in like an annoying way. It just kind of like scraping that pick across. It just kind of bothers me when they do it so much on that track. The singer has a weird way of doing what I guess I'll call the chorus, where it sounds almost like you're going into a tunnel or like passing through by sound in waves or something. It's actually like kind of an interesting trick, right? To it. It kind of it's almost like, wow, you know, like you hear the effect like you're coming or things are like coming near and far. And I don't know if it's meant to be like that. This thing sounds better on a speaker than headphones. Probably the cheaper the speaker is better. By the second song, it became clear to me they're doing the like shitty guitar sound on purpose. It sounds like the worst like black metal kind of like thin guitar, but there's only one, right? And it's got to be really tight and really on point, the one guitar player, because it's not like layered up and stuff, so it's individually like thought through for sure. I feel like on this Death Racer album, they're trying to like have like a spooky element to it, or maybe like a supernatural element to it. The bass really kind of bothered me in the headphones the first time I heard it. By the time I got to Inverted Crossroads, I kind of figured it out though. It's kind of like the Principle of Evil made flesh, Creator of Filth bass, but it's like turned all the way up, right? So kind of like that pulsating sound. So instead of being like kind of like a percussive instrument, you know, playing the bass, it's more like giving like a boom kind of feel to it. Almost like sounding like it's like feeding back, or almost like kind of like an annoying buzz that comes in and out of the tracks, if that makes sense. This is like one of those things that are like trying to sound old, I think, but are new, right? At times it really does pick up the speed, and then the individual notes on the guitar are just played so fast. So there's something interesting here to check out. The vocals at times can be really sad, a lot of reverb, vicious, but not in like a sad, clean emo way. So at least it like doesn't go into that territory, and it has kind of like its own unique sound to it. It sounded like it was trying to be scary to a bit, or interesting. By the time I got to track 6 or 7, called Racers at Death, I think, you know, it grew on me a bit. The album grew on me a bit, and if I'd gotten all the way through it, I think the thing might grow on me more. So another racing themed band to check out. Yeah, I think we can wrap up the racing stuff. The Hedonist album is good. Death metal. Check it out. Listen to it loud. Soyal came early this year. Blackbraid's new album, Blackbraid 3, came out, and it is fucking amazing. Blackbraid is a one-man black metal project founded in 2002 by John Krieger, who performs under the Mohawk name Sahushush, meaning the Witch Hawk. Based in the Adirondack Mountains of New York, Blackbraid blends traditional black metal with Native American themes, instrumentation, and storytelling. As Louder put it, Blackbraid aims to subvert black metal cliches by replacing satanic tropes with raw, emotional storytelling rooted in the indigenous experience. His music is a form of resistance and remembrance, channeling ancestral pain and pride through blast beats and haunting melodies. For lay people, I would say second wave melodic black metal is the nerdy phrase I hear thrown around about this band. I'm guessing the internet and everyone is all over this band now. Blackbraid is at the top of their game. They've released 3 excellent albums over the last 4 years. The output is amazing. and I have nothing but praise to reap on Witch Hawk and Blackbraid with this new album. I saw them in May 2023 in what I believe was their first tour. So they were asked to be the opening act on the one of the Decibel tours with Cattle Decap and Dark Funeral. They were awesome. They really were. I think they've toured big festival circuits and stuff now. It was a great show. When I saw them in 2023, Blackbraid 2 was not out yet, but the song Moss Covered Bones was out, and they played that monster of a song live, and it was incredible. During the concert, they also played River of Time, and my favorite song from them, Barefoot Ghost Dance. Yeah, I got this shirt at the concert, and I've never actually worn it. I mean, this is why metal can't be like corporate or artificial intelligence. Imagine being in a boardroom and then Bob's like, hey, we should have indigenous North American black metal. We'll make it angry and melodic, right? Once that suggestion was made, they're all like, oh, yeah, right, man, Bob, you're out of the meeting, right? But holy crap, does this work? Native Americans have an appreciation and respect for the outdoors, right? Forests, lands, battles, black metal, and the different kind of nerdy stuff with that. It all kind of works together here really, really well. Blackbraid 3 was released August 8th, 2025. The album cover is a little different from the past. It looks like a small painting hung in like your great-grandparents' spare bedroom that had wood paneling. I've kind of debated, like, do I want to go like on a track-by-track breakdown here, or just kind of give you like some overall assumptions? I assume the internet's like, full of all kinds of assholes all over this band by now. It still has the awesome like black metal tremolo guitar with then like the open notes after that just create like that wash of sound, right? I do know live there are multiple guitarists, right? So it's kind of like a tremolo, and then they just like open string the bottom to like wah kind of thing. How to do it? Okay, you gotta do that. So yeah, I don't know if this will translate not being plugged in, but you kind of got like the black metal tremolos that come along, and then just like with the open note, so it's, and then that kind of like wash of sound is really cool. They perfected it on this album, in my opinion. Witch Hawk does vocals live with two guitarists. The reason I point that out is because Witch Hawk and Blackbraid are a guitar band, right? Witch Hawk is obviously a well thought through guitar player. Overall, on Blackbraid 3, we have a complete album that just fits together so nicely. The acoustic parts fit in nicely, and in the past, it was integrated really well too, where it's got like the same like musical themes or notes. So the acoustic passages are not just like junky interludes to like break it up, but they also carry the same like tone, notes, means, modes, stuff like that that bleed to or have come from the prior song. So they're not just like broken out parts to break up the album, they're connected to the next track mostly. This band is very musical, and I hope that makes sense. It's not syncopation, it's not chugs, it's not start-stops, it's building songs, it's creating like chords that go together and just like bleed into a whole entire consistent album. This thing is excellent. So you can't help but like compare prior output, right? So Blackbraid 2, right? It was a little choppy at the end of the album, almost like it had too many songs, and you really could have lobbed like the last 3 songs off of that album, and it still would have been great. But like boo-hoo, that's kind of a poser thing to say. Like I want less songs or like quantity from a band or something that you really, really like. My point here is that Witch Hawk has a lot to say and a lot of output to create, and he is at his stride. He's either at his height or he's about to become the biggest fucking metal band on the planet in a few years. Go see them live before they get too big. I bought tickets to the October show at Reggie's. I bought those fucking things like back in May, just in the hopes that I could go to this thing and see them again live. Seamless integration of acoustic and electric guitar. The earth weeping with its outside sounds. It's got fire. You hear loons in the distance. It's just incredible. Or the double simile song, like wind through the reeds, making waves like water. Great build up to the album's like conclusion song before we get the cover on there. The song Traversing the Forest of Eternal Dusk layers acoustic and then electric guitar on top of it, and this is after the flute. Yes, the Native American flute is back. If this seems dorky, then you're not listening to it. Go listen to it on this album. I think they blend the flute better on this one. Yes, the track where the flute and the electric guitar tone comes in, Eternal Dusk, it's interesting, right? Because the guitar will have the same notes or the same key layered on top of it, so it helps it just kind of flow seamlessly. The flute is a featured section on the standout track, God of Black Blood, and that's the song that you should pull up if you want to hear one off this. And that track has like a ripping solo, not like a black metal style, but obviously, but like more of a 80s thrash mixed with like Bathory. I feel like I hear a lot of Bathory on this album for some reason, but I can't like quite place it right. Like Blackbraid 2, there are two excellent 10-minute tracks on this album. Not in the middle on this one as like centerpieces, but more towards the end of the album on this one, and they are killer. Part of what makes these albums work so well is, yes, the commitment to like the indigenous people themes, but also Witch Hawk's voice. Raspy, metally, snarly, and it can fluctuate. I don't know if this album like vocally reaches the highs of like Barefoot Ghost Dance, but it is varied and works well with the guitar styles perfectly. The last song on this album is a cover. It's called Fleshbound, and the original was by Lord Belial or something like that. I've heard of that album Kiss the Goat, actually. So the cover song on this album versus Blackbraid 2 just seems like it's integrated with the material better. It just sounds more consistent on the album and not like a separate band or something. You could argue it's unnecessary on this album, and you would have a point. But I'll tell you, when he says, "I tear my flesh," it's hard to argue against that song because it sounds so cool. They still incorporate the Blackbraid cheat code. Those like Native American like melodies on the guitar. Do 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 do. Like, remember those? Like on the closing track, He Became the Burning Stars. Like when they roll into those like indigenous people like melodies, do 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 do. Oh, it just feels so good on the album, and they're added to this one as well. It's just so great. This album's got ragers, it's got thoughtful acoustic moments, but the whole thing plays just like a whole non-broken up complete album. Blackbraid 3 is awesome. One last thing, Little Hawk. Be careful of the perils of rock and roll before you. I know you're a fan of the past, and you wear it very much on your sleeve of your albums. You've had cover songs in each of your albums that were, unnecessary, but you wanted to show them off. You wanted to honor, acknowledge those before you in multiple ways, which I find very endearing. Keep your head on your shoulders. Learn from the mistakes from musicians in the past who are no longer with us, and move your project to the next level. We believe in you. That's it! Death Metal Boom!